Ningen. The Ningen is a Japanese cryptid, which had most likely originated from a 2chan post. According to the 2chan post, the crew of a Japanese whaling ship witnessed a gigantic object surfacing near their ship, off the Antarctic coast. Thinking it was a submarine, they approached it to take a closer look, but it disappeared quickly underwater. The Ningen has been allegedly reported on several occasions by crew members of whaling ships, which report their appearance as that of gigantic humanoid creatures that are 65 to 100 feet long. They are completely white in color, possessing human-like anatomy, such as long arms, hands, and 5 fingers. Their faces have simple features, such as round eyes and a slit for a mouth. They are sometimes described to possess legs, or mermaid-like fins in place of legs. Other sightings describe their appearance as humanoid bipedal creatures, with only a head connected to 2 legs, similar to the infamous Fresno nightcrawlers. Since the first appearance of the thread on 2chan discussing Ningen sightings, there have been many videos and photos released that have been alleged to be true sightings of Ningen. Theories of their true nature point to them either being an evolutionary relative to humans, to being genetically modified human experiments that have escaped, or intentionally been released to test their capabilities. USOs. Unidentified submerged objects, or USOs, is a term used to refer to whales, sharks, and other sea creatures that can interfere with ship maneuvering, sonar operations, and oceanographic research. While this is the official classification by the Navy, the term also includes strange, unexplained crafts. These range from strange crafts observed underwater by submarines traveling at impossible speeds, to UFOs that are seen to fly freely in the air before diving into the ocean, where they disappear completely without leaving a trace. These strange vehicles capable of traversing both sky and water at advanced speeds have been well documented in various declassified videos by the US Navy. In addition to this, there have been several reports of Navy ships being swarmed by these otherworldly drones before disappearing underwater. Explanations range from advanced secret tech by the Chinese government, which had deployed these drones to spy on US naval ships, to the US military secretly testing new tech. While some people maintain that the technological capabilities possessed by those strange crafts are far more advanced than our current capabilities, and thus must be alien in nature. This gave rise to theories of underwater alien bases, hidden from the world, from which these crafts emerged from and returned to. Call of the Deep. A strange phenomenon that has been occasionally observed or experienced by divers is the Call of the Deep phenomenon. Stories about this phenomenon usually revolve around a diver suddenly diving headfirst into the depths of the ocean, with no logical explanation, sometimes to their death. One such story, mostly an urban legend, claims that a diving instructor was diving with his students at a place where the seafloor was invisible, to get them used to the feeling of not being able to see the seafloor. One of the students started inexplicably staring down at the void beneath him, transfixed. He then suddenly began to swim directly down. The instructor rushed to him, grabbing his shoulder to try and prevent him from descending further, when the diver shook the instructor's arm off and continued his descent. The instructor then tried grabbing the diver's leg, after which the diver turned to the instructor, smiled, and shook off his arm again, before continuing diving downwards. The instructor could not follow him further for fear of risk to himself, and the diver was never seen again. The most probable explanation for this phenomenon is nitrogen narcosis. At great depths, nitrogen acts as a narcotic. This causes a change in consciousness, similar to being drunk, with feelings of euphoria, disorientation, impairment of judgment, among other effects. This might cause divers to get disoriented, confusing the bottom of the ocean for the top, thus diving straight downwards. NASA was founded to escape the oceans. The premise behind this theory is a simple one, but lacks any real substance to it. This theory claims that the US government, the Navy, or even NASA themselves, depending on the particular version of this theory, found something while exploring the oceans that was so terrifying that NASA was eventually founded. This was done with the goal of finding an alternative habitat in space to escape whatever eldritch horror they might have encountered in the cold depths. The thing that had been found at the depths of the oceans ranges from the usual suspects of a great underwater beast or serpent to an advanced hostile underwater civilization. Giant cannibal white shark. In 2003, a 9-foot great white shark was tagged with a research tag that recorded its ambient temperature and depths to study its patterns. 4 months later, the research tag was found detached on the beach, 2.5 miles away from where it was first fixed to the shark. The information recorded on it baffled scientists. The data revealed that 4 months after the tag was attached, there was a sudden change in depth and temperature, showing the shark suddenly diving to a depth of 1,903 feet, with the ambient temperature spiking from 46 to 78 degrees Fahrenheit. This data suggested an attack, with a sudden rise in temperature suggesting that the tag, and therefore the shark, had entered another animal's digestive system. But what could attack a 9-foot great white? Speculation abounded, with many speculating that what had attacked the shark was a megalodon, a monstrous shark that had been extinct for millions of years, but might have still existed in the depths of the ocean. Others pointed to giant squids. Despite all this speculation, scientists finally reached a conclusion. What devoured the great white was another, much bigger 16-foot colossal cannibal great white shark. Cannibalism among sharks is a well-recorded and documented phenomenon, known to occur in various species of shark. The black carpet. Diver Anon is a 4chan user who claims to be a deep-sea commercial diver. He started posting his strange encounters, experiences, and the stories and experiences of his various colleagues on several 4chan threads. Diver Anon first appeared on a thread discussing the strange unexplained bloop sound. He replied to the thread, claiming that the bloop sound was produced by the black carpet. He explained that the black carpet was a deep-sea cryptid that had reportedly been encountered by many divers he knew. Described as a gigantic black sea carpet, composed of a colony of macrobiotic organisms. The black carpet is described as being gigantic, stretching as far as the eye can see, with those who observed it claiming that seeing it move is like seeing the whole ocean floor move. Long feelers protrude from its mass, along with transparent stalks that it allegedly uses for hunting. Whatever touches these transparent stalks is shocked and paralyzed before being pulled in and consumed by the creature. In one instance, it was allegedly seen consuming the carcass of a dead whale. There's also a story of a diver who became paralyzed after touching one of its feelers, and was almost consumed by the great mass, barely escaping with his life. The black carpet produces a sound similar to the bloop, which many describe as a strange singing sound, similar to a distorted whale song. A marine biologist friend of diver Anon theorized that the creature uses vibrations along its mass to communicate with the colony of organisms that form it, which produces this unusual sound. He also theorized that the creature's size varies according to its energy needs. Whenever it consumes food, the colony that forms it starts duplicating, getting larger in size. When food is scarce, it consumes itself, getting smaller in size. The various units that it's composed of working as an energy store. Phantom divers. One other creature described by Diver Anon on one of his threads are the phantom divers or the black divers. According to him, phantom divers are a popular urban legend among deep-sea divers. They are identical in appearance to scuba divers, except for the fact that they don't release any bubbles, move uncannily, and seem to imitate the movements of human divers. When observed closer, the wetsuit they're wearing is either completely empty, or is described to contain a corpse or skeleton. While he claims that these might just be nitrogen narcosis hallucinations, Anon theorizes that they might be the lost spirits of divers who had died in the depths of the ocean. A more plausible explanation, according to him, is that they are very advanced species of cephalopod. Anon claims that various species of cephalopods have been shown to have the ability to take on the appearance of inanimate objects, and even other sea creatures, so it wouldn't be entirely improbable that a species exists that is able to take on the appearance of humans. This could be done by either changing their body shape, color, and texture to imitate the appearance of divers, or simply using the wetsuits of dead divers. Diver Anon describes an encounter with one of these phantom divers, where it disappeared behind a cloud of black ink or blood, solidifying his belief that they are cephalopods. Deep Sea Facility Disappearance. Towards the end of August 2019, divers on the Baltic Sea were surprised to discover that an almost 1,600-pound, $300,000 underwater scientific observatory had disappeared without a trace, leaving behind only a freight cable that connected the observatory to land. The divers were sent to check on the observatory a week after it had stopped transmitting data completely. Expecting an equipment malfunction, divers were surprised to find that the observatory, consisting of 2 racks of equipment, had completely disappeared. Due to the massive weight of the observatory, along with its strong anchoring systems, natural causes such as deep-sea storms or sea animals displacing the station were ruled out. The remaining theories were either a military submarine accidentally running into it, but the depth was too shallow for submarine operation. There was also the theory that it was stolen by thieves and sold for scrap metal. The most plausible explanation, though, was that an illegal fishing boat might have snagged the observatory in its anchor, dragging it along the seafloor. Despite searching in a 100-meter radius on the seafloor, divers were unable to find a sign of the observatory, except for tracks on the seafloor, which might suggest that the observatory was dragged by some means. It wasn't until almost 1 year later that half of the observatory, consisting of 1 rack that contained sensors which were badly damaged or missing, was found. It was found 200 meters northeast of its original position, and the opposite directions from the tracks on the seafloor. The location of the remainder of the observatory, and what displaced it, still remains a mystery. Lapa. Lapa is an unexplained underwater phenomenon that was used by ancient and modern Polynesians to navigate the Pacific Ocean. Lapa translates loosely to underwater lightning, and according to various descriptions, appears as a flash of light that originates from a nearby island. Polynesians would follow this flash of light, which would eventually lead them to the island it originated from, using this method for the exploration of nearby islands. Although the Polynesians had used many navigation methods, Lapa still remains largely unexplained by science, with many people even skeptical of its existence, relegating it to the status of a cultural myth. Due to the rarity of this phenomenon, it's incredibly difficult to be able to study it consistently. Even first-hand reports of its sightings remain scarce and far between, even among Polynesians themselves. Many suggested explanations exist, such as bioluminescence, electromagnetism, among other explanations. Anthropologist Marianne George would journey with a Polynesian navigator to study this phenomenon, and was able to observe it firsthand. Due to her experience in the ocean, and with other anomalous oceanic light phenomenon, Marianne dispels the possible explanations of bioluminescence and other readily available scientific explanations, claiming that this phenomenon should be studied more before coming to any conclusions as of its cause. Cow found in the Pacific Ocean. On September of 1989, a pair of scientists were counting fish from a submarine off the coast of Baranof Island, Sitka, Alaska. They were 690 feet beneath the surface of the sea when they encountered an unusual and unexplainable sight. The carcass of a sunken, intact cow appeared for a few seconds on the ocean floor as they cruised along. When a reporter from the Sitka Sentinel was sent to investigate the video footage, he too confirmed that this was a cow, and also claimed that it was a Holstein cow, a dairy breed. Despite this being a strange occurrence, and not much being given in terms of theories of how the cow ended up there, the most probable explanation is that the cow might have fallen from a livestock ship, ending up on the ocean floor. Fish with human faces. A couple of years ago, a video began floating around the internet showing a fish that had a human-like face that was observed at the edge of a pond. While some argued that the video had been digitally altered, another explanation was that the phenomenon of pareidolia, the tendency to see faces or other images in random patterns, along with the strange patterns on some species of fish, created the illusion of a human face. This phenomenon is not new, and is relatively popular in Japan. Termed Jinmengyo, which translates to human-faced fish. This phenomenon started gaining traction in Japan in 1990, when the tabloid Japanese magazine Friday first published a photo sent in by a reader of a human-faced fish. People from all over Japan rushed to the place where the photo was allegedly taken, at Zenpochi Temple, in Yamagata Prefecture. The urban legend spread, and suddenly people began observing all kinds of human-faced fish in ponds all over Japan, and even in Korea and China. Whale found in Amazon forest. In 2019, the bloated carcass of a 26-foot-long, young humpback whale was discovered, 50 feet from the Atlantic Ocean, on a mangrove in Marijo Island, at the mouth of the Amazon River. Local fishermen found the carcass by following huge numbers of vultures that were circling a mangrove, and found the whale that seemed to have been dead for at least several days. While not entirely improbable for a whale to be found in such an area, scientists were still confused how a whale was found near the Atlantic at this time of year, so far away from its migratory path, when it should have been 4,000 miles away near the southern hemisphere. Theories of how it got there claim that the whale must have died and was carried by the tide to the mouth of the Amazon River. Either it was caught in a net, hit by a boat, or killed by other means, before its carcass was carried off by the current to this remote island. Animal Planet Mermaid Hoax. On May 27, 2012, a mockumentary aired on Animal Planet, titled Mermaids, The Body Found. The mockumentary was broadcast as a real documentary, with only a few easily missed disclaimers pointing out that it was fictional. The show earned Animal Planet its highest ratings of all time, with most, if not all, people who watched it believing it was true. The documentary is told from the perspective of two scientists who were allegedly working with NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Association, but in reality were actors. These scientists relayed their personal experiences, stories, and theories about mermaids throughout the mockumentary. The mockumentary delves into the bloop sound, and the speculation that it might have originated from an undiscovered species of aquatic creatures, and is a form of communication. The documentary then goes on to claim that the two NOAA scientists discovered a humanoid corpse inside the stomach of a dead shark that some fishermen had caught. When pieced together, the remains resembled those of mermaids. The rest of the mockumentary delves into police and the government confiscating the evidence of the existence of mermaids, and the efforts of the scientists to prove their existence, despite the government's attempts to silence them. The Aquatic Ape Theory. The Aquatic Ape Theory is a fringe scientific theory which speculates that our evolutionary ancestors took a different evolutionary path from great apes, as they became accustomed and adapted to more aquatic environments. The theory tries to explain differences between modern humans and other species of apes, claiming that due to the ancestors of modern humans being forced to hunt in aquatic environments, due to increased competition on land, they developed traits which are not observed in other ape species. Traits which are claimed to be more adapted to aquatic environments, such as bipedalism, hairlessness, layers of subcutaneous fat, and other features. While this theory is widely disregarded by anthropologists as pseudoscience, it has gained popularity in several conspiracy theory circles, with several theorists going a step further and claiming that some ancestors of humans near oceanic habitats were forced to take to the ocean. This caused them to gradually develop more aquatic features, such as webbed fingers, gills, and maybe even fins, to assist with underwater hunting. This gave rise to a new species of underwater humans, which closely match the stereotypical description of mermaids. Deep Sea Labs. In 1962, the first underwater habitat was built by Jacques Cousteau, Conshelf 1, which paved the way for future underwater habitats and deep sea research labs. Almost 65 underwater labs have been built since then. These labs at first aimed to study the effects of psychological stress and isolation on the divers, along with the efficiency of saturation diving, where a mixture of helium and oxygen was used to prevent narcosis and decompression sickness. They were also used to train astronauts and for other military applications, as the Navy had their own funded sea labs, Project Sea Lab 1, 2, and 3. Later labs were eventually mainly used for research and exploration purposes. As it stands now, only one underwater lab is currently operating, Aquarius, where researchers descend in 2-week intervals to study the ocean. Despite the fact that this is the only remaining one, many people have put forward several conspiracies concerning underwater labs, mainly that the US Navy has a multitude of active, top-secret underwater sea labs at the moment, or even underwater military bases. The cause for their existence ranges from the study of USOs and their origins, to exploration of lost cities or current underwater cities that are populated by a species of intelligent sea people or extraterrestrials. Some even speculate that these underwater bases are the origin for the recently cited USOs or UAPs, which are assumed to have been developed by the government at said bases. Another theory concerning these bases is that the military uses them to secretly develop genetically modified human beings, which are able to live at these extreme depths and pressures for long periods of time, without needing oxygen. Lake Baikal, Anon. The world's largest lake by volume and also the deepest and oldest lake, Lake Baikal, has been the subject of many urban legends, cryptid sightings, and conspiracies. There have been tales of bright, unidentified aerial phenomena observed above the lake, along with strange creatures and ghost ships observed on the surface of the lake. Most infamous is the tale of the crew of a Soviet submarine observing an unidentified submerged craft or crafts traveling at impossible speeds underwater towards them. While there's also the story of the Lake Baikal swimmers. Those were strange, humanoid, 9-foot creatures dressed in silvery suits with open helmets, who killed 3 military Soviet divers who tried to capture them. The following stories were told on a 4chan thread, in which an Anon claimed that he used to work as a ranger in the Barganzinski State Natural Reservoir near Lake Baikal. He documents some of his unusual experiences concerning the lake. Anon claims to have met a disheveled, crazy person by the name of Sterik, who claims to have been a Soviet air and marine biologist who studied Lake Baikal. Anon then goes on to describe how Sterik showed him a VHS tape showing a top-secret, undocumented expedition to the bottom of the lake. Anon watches the tape and describes several strange creatures he claims to have seen on the tape during the expedition. One was a gigantic jellyfish, so large that it had its own ecosystem inside, completely divided from the outside. As they go deeper, they see that the floor is covered by whale bones, despite Lake Baikal not possessing any whale populations. Anon watches as the whale bones suddenly move, swimming as if still alive. The marine biologist explains that the whale bones are reanimated by a single-celled organism, which feeds off the minerals in the whale's bones and builds a whole colony along the bones. Eventually, the colony creates a membrane around the skeleton, which vaguely resembles a whale, which they use to hold the bones together and move the whale. The inside of the colony is filled with an acidic solution that keeps the bones buoyant. The colony then moves the bones as one, traveling and hunting other organisms, which it digests using this solution. The solution eventually damages the whale's bones, and the organism falls apart. As the submarine goes deeper, it eventually penetrates a brine layer at the bottom of the Lake Baikal, which the marine biologist claims is a false bottom, with Lake Baikal going 1,200 meters lower than its original depth after this false bottom. As Anon continues to watch the video, despite Sterik's warnings, he observes a giant serpent, almost 2 kilometers in length, which is assumed to be the Great Lake Baikal beast, Lusut Khan, a gigantic sea serpent living in the depths that has been subject of many myths, legends, and alleged sightings. The gigantic serpent stares at the camera, and Anon feels that there's something inherently evil about his stare. After turning off the tape, Anon claimed he could feel the creature, a voice or feeling in the back of his head beckoning him towards the lake. After asking the former marine biologist Sterik about it, Steric explained that 60% of life on Lake Baikal couldn't be found anywhere else. He claimed that the reason for this was that the creature lures life to it, attracting life towards the lake for whatever unknown reason. Steric then theorizes that Lake Baikal is a prison for this creature, whether made by aliens, gods, or some other natural phenomenon. This creature was imprisoned in the lake, with a fake bottom and brine layer separating it from everything else. Anon claims that after seeing the video, he began experiencing nightmares, speech and vision problems, and was inexplicably drawn to the lake, and eventually had to move away. The Gulf of Aden Vortex. In 2013, an article was published on WikiLeaks. The article claimed to be a leaked email from global intelligence company Stratfor, which included information prepared by Admiral Maximov of Russia for President Putin. In the WikiLeaks article, the following is claimed. In the year 2000, US scientists began noticing the formation of a mysterious magnetic vortex in the Gulf of Aden, off the Horn of Africa. Noticing this unusual anomaly, the US established a base of operations in Djibouti to study this strange vortex. Although defying natural explanation, the vortex was relatively stable until 2008, during which this vortex began to expand. This prompted the US to issue a global warning to the world's superpowers, which prompted the naval forces of almost 27 countries to rush to the Gulf of Aden. The official pretext for this joint operation was that the naval forces were needed to protect the waters of the Gulf of Aden from Somali pirates. The vortex is allegedly claimed to be believed by many world officials to be an attack on our planet by unknown forces, which are claimed to be either interdimensional or extraterrestrial. In 2010, the Gulf of Aden vortex also began another series of unusual expansions, which were preceded by extremely high earthquake activity in the area, never observed before in recent times. During this period, several other anomalous weather conditions were also observed around the globe. One theory proposed in the WikiLeaks article is that the vortex is actually a stargate, an intradimensional portal between two remote areas in space. The assembly of all these countries' navies was said to have been done to study the stargate, while there's also the possibility that they were gathered to try to prevent or protect themselves from whatever might emerge, or might have emerged from the stargate. The file concludes with the statement that WikiLeaks has more critical intelligence on the Gulf of Aden vortex phenomenon, intel, which, if released, would cause a worldwide panic. Despite this being an official article on WikiLeaks, the extraordinary claims made in the article without sufficient evidence make the information presented questionable at best, if not an outright hoax. The ocean at night. This entry is related to the previous Gulf of Aden vortex. It's a conspiracy that started on 4chan and provides an even more bizarre explanation for the WikiLeaks article. According to this theory, the US government had been building an artificial underwater sun in the Gulf of Aden in an attempt to create an infinite hydrogen source. When this artificial sun was activated, though, the light allegedly drew the attention of an incredibly massive beast that had remained hidden away from humanity in the cold depths of the ocean. The 2008 warning and the gathering of the navies of over 27 countries referred to in the previous article was actually done to battle this massive creature, which was covered up by the Somali pirates' excuse.